The incessant drone of high school chatter faded into a cacophony of taunts and jeers directed solely at me, Ethan Turner. Each day was a battle, not against the assignments or the dreary lectures, but against my peers' relentless bullying. Their words, sharp as knives, sliced through the already thin veil of my self-esteem. Standing over 6 feet tall and weighing considerably more than any of my classmates, I was an easy target. My reflection in the mirror each morning revealed a boy with unkempt, mousy brown hair, eyes too large for his face, and a body that seemed to only expand no matter how little I ate. The school corridors, adorned with lockers that had witnessed countless dramas, felt like a gauntlet. As I trudged through, trying to make myself as small as possible, it was as if the very air thickened with disdain. My attempts at invisibility were futile. I was too big, too awkward. The jocks, with their chiseled jaws and easy confidence, made it their daily mission to remind me of my place. "Hey, Turner, tried fitting through the door sideways yet?" They'd jeer, their laughter echoing off the walls, a sound as familiar as the ringing of the school bell. In the solitude of my room, a small space cluttered with books and models of planes I'd never fly, I found my only refuge. The walls, a pale blue, seemed to absorb my silent cries for help, offering a cold comfort. My parents, though kind, were shadows flitting in and out of my life, too wrapped up in their own worlds to notice the depths of my despair. One particularly grueling day, as autumn leaves painted the ground in hues of fire and gold, the bullying took a turn for the worse. Jason McCleary, the football team's quarterback and my personal tormentor, decided mere words were insufficient. The physical altercation that followed left me with a black eye, a split lip, and a humiliation so profound it seemed to seep into my bones. Lying on the cold, hard ground, I could taste the metallic tang of blood and defeat. As the days grew shorter and the nights longer, a deep-seated anger began to simmer within me. It was a quiet, unsettling presence that whispered of retribution and strength, yet fear and a sense of worthlessness shackled me, preventing any action. The idea of standing up for myself seemed as foreign as the concept of happiness. One night, after a particularly harrowing day of snickers and pointed fingers, I found myself lying in bed, staring at the ceiling. The shadows there seemed to swirl and dance, forming shapes that almost looked like words. "Why me?" I whispered into the darkness, my voice barely a tremble. "What did I do to deserve this?" The questions hung in the air, unanswered, a testament to my loneliness. The silence of my room was a stark contrast to the chaos of my thoughts. My heart ached for understanding, for a sign that this pain was not eternal. As I drifted into a restless sleep, the last thing I felt was a tear sliding down my cheek, a silent plea to a world that seemed to have forgotten me. The world was shrouded in the velvety cloak of night when my plea was finally answered. It came not with fanfare or lightning, but as a whisper, soft and insidious, threading through the edges of my consciousness. "Ethan," it murmured, a voice as formless as the shadows that danced across my room, "you are not alone." Startled, I sat upright, scanning the darkness for the source, but found nothing. My heart hammered against my ribcage, yet within that fear, a spark of hope flickered. In the days that followed, the voice became my constant companion. It was neither male nor female, but seemed to shift and change, mirroring my emotions. It offered comfort, guidance, and, most importantly, an understanding I had long craved. "They see only what they wish," it counseled during my walks through the hostile school halls, its tone soothing the sting of jeers. "You are more than their narrow vision can perceive." Encouraged by the voice, I began to change. Small acts of defiance marked the beginning of my transformation. Where I once would have lowered my gaze, I now met the stares of my bullies with a steady one of my own. The voice's whispers were like a balm, healing old wounds and sowing seeds of confidence within the barren fields of my self-worth. Physical changes soon followed. I took to running under the cloak of dusk, where the world seemed less judgmental and more forgiving. Each step was a rebellion against the years of torment, each breath a testament to my resilience. My body, responding to the exertion and the voice's encouragement, began to shed its excess weight, sculpting itself into something new, something stronger. The voice guided me not just through the trials of high school, but in discovering a new image. Change, it urged, leading me to alter my attire, my posture, even the way I spoke. Miraculously, the bullying began to wane, as if my tormentors could sense the shift in the balance of power. I was no longer the easiest target, no longer the outcast to be cornered and mocked. Yet with every change, the voice's demands grew more insistent. Strength comes at a cost, it whispered late one night, as I lay pondering my transformation. Are you willing to do what is necessary? Confused and slightly alarmed, I pressed for clarity, but it fell silent, its absence more ominous than its cryptic messages. The realization that this voice, my only ally, might have its own agenda, sent chills down my spine. Yet I couldn't deny the allure of its promises. The prospect of further power, of revenge against those who had wronged me, was intoxicating. In my heart, a darkness began to take root, fed by the voice's seductive whispers and my own unchecked desires. As winter's chill seeped into the world, blanketing it in a shroud of frost and silence, the voice's demands became a constant echo in the back of my mind. It started small, urging me to partake in acts I would have previously balked at. A token, it would hiss, guiding my hands to pocket a trinket from a store, a thrill of adrenaline coursing through me with the act. Each deed, seemingly insignificant, was a step on a path I was only beginning to comprehend. The changes in me were not merely physical or superficial, they seeped into the very essence of my being. The scorn and ridicule that once crushed me now bounced off an armor forged in secrecy and whispers. My classmates, once tormentors, now regarded me with a mix of respect and fear. I moved through the hallways not as a victim, but as someone to be wary of, an enigma that no longer fit the mold they had cast for me. But with every step forward, the voice's requests grew darker, more ominous. Power is not given, Ethan. It is taken, it would murmur as I lay awake, contemplating the abyss into which I was slowly descending. The voice spoke of sacrifices, of the need to sever ties with the past to embrace the full extent of my newfound strength. The first true test came unexpectedly, a confrontation with Jason McCleary, no longer my superior in build or spirit, escalated beyond words. Fueled by the voice's urgings, I fought back with a ferocity that startled us both. The victory was mine, but as I stood over him, panting and alive with a newfound power, the voice's demands crystallized into a chilling directive. He is the first, it whispered, but not the last. The realization that I was being groomed for something far beyond high school squabbles struck me with terrifying clarity. The voice, once my savior, now revealed itself as a manipulative entity, guiding me towards a precipice from which there was no return. The small acts of defiance had been the first steps on a path leading to a darkness I had not anticipated. My nights were haunted by visions of what I was becoming. The face that stared back at me in the mirror began to feel like a mask, hiding the turmoil that raged beneath. The voice's whispers were no longer comforting, but a constant reminder of the pact I had unwittingly made. The sacrifices must continue, it insisted, a mantra that echoed with the beat of my heart. As spring approached, bringing life and renewal to the world around me, I stood at the edge of an abyss. The voice's final demand was clear. To embrace the darkness fully, I must cross a line from which there was no return. Live human sacrifices, it insisted, were the key to unlocking the ultimate power I craved. The horror of the realization was a cold chain around my heart, yet part of me yearned for the power it promised, a testament to how far I had fallen under its influence. The boundary between right and wrong, once clear and inviolable, had blurred into obscurity under the voice's relentless tutelage. My initial resistance to its final darkest demand crumbled as the allure of absolute power over those who had once tormented me became an intoxicating obsession. The transformation from victim to predator was complete. I reveled in the fear I now instilled in those who had never missed an opportunity to degrade me. The night I chose for my first act of ultimate defiance was cloaked in a darkness so profound, it seemed the world itself had turned its back. The voice guided me, its whispers now screams in my head, pushing me towards an irreversible deed. Jason McCleary, once my tormentor, now my target, was the first. The act was swift, a release of years of pent-up rage and sorrow. As he lay there, a life extinguished by my hands, the voice exulted in triumph. "You are mine," it hissed, a declaration of ownership rather than partnership. With each subsequent act, the voice grew stronger, its presence a constant shadow that darkened my soul. I found myself caught in a maelstrom of violence, each deed more heinous than the last, all in the pursuit of the elusive power I had been promised. The fear in the eyes of my victims became my addiction, a drug that fueled my descent into madness. Yet, as the body count rose, a creeping sense of horror began to take root within me. What had I become? The faces of my victims haunted my dreams, their silent accusations a chorus that eroded the foundations of my sanity. The realization hit me with the force of a physical blow. I was no longer the bullied, but the bully, a monster far worse than those who had tormented me. The voice, once a source of solace and strength, now mocked my torment. "You are what you were meant to be," it sneered, its words a poison that seeped into every fiber of my being. The power it had promised was mine, but at what cost? My humanity, my soul had been the price, and I had paid it willingly. As I stood before the mirror, the reflection that gazed back was a stranger, a husk driven by dark desires and an insatiable hunger for control. The voice and I had merged, its essence woven so deeply into my own that we were indistinguishable. The realization that I could no longer separate where I ended and it began was the final nail in the coffin of my sanity. In the end, the voice's promise was fulfilled. Power, absolute and corrupting, coursed through my veins, a drug that dulled the remnants of guilt and humanity that clung desperately to the edges of my consciousness. The path I had walked, paved with blood and tears, led only to darkness, a realm where I reigned supreme, a king of shadows and whispers. The future stretched before me, a landscape ripe for the horrors I would unleash, driven not by the need for revenge, but by the insatiable desire for more, always more. The cycle of bullying had ended, only to be replaced by a cycle of terror that I, now fully merged with the voice, would perpetuate.